What if the universe was trying to talk to us? Deep in the heart of a black hole, something stirs, something alive. A team of astronomers receives an impossible signal, a whisper from the edge of reality that defies everything we know about physics and existence. As they unravel its secrets, they uncover a form of life thriving where no life should exist. But with every answer comes a question, and with every discovery, a new danger emerges. Are we ready to face what lies beyond the event horizon? Stay tuned for a journey into the unknown, and don't forget to subscribe for more mind-bending stories. The night sky above the observatory stretched endlessly, speckled with stars like scattered diamonds against velvet darkness. Beneath this vast expanse, humanity's most advanced telescopes stood vigilant, scanning the heavens for answers to questions as old as time itself. The observatory, nestled high in the mountains, was a fortress of science and curiosity, its domes glinting faintly under the cold light of the moon. Inside, rows of monitors displayed data streams pouring in from deep space, each pixel representing light that had traveled billions of years to reach Earth. It began subtly, a faint blip buried within the static noise of deep space observations. At first, it seemed insignificant, just another anomaly among countless others detected daily. Yet something about this particular signal caught the attention of Dr. Elena Vasquez, lead astronomer at the facility. She had spent years studying black holes, those enigmatic regions of space-time where even light cannot escape their relentless pull. To her trained eye, the pattern embedded in the signal suggested intelligence rather than randomness. Her pulse quickened as she zoomed in on the data, isolating the repeating sequence. Each pulse lasted precisely 2.3 milliseconds, followed by a pause before resuming again, an unnatural rhythm that hinted at deliberate design. Over weeks, the team meticulously analyzed the transmission, ruling out interference from satellites or natural phenomena. They cross-referenced the signal with known pulsars, quasars, and gamma-ray bursts, but none matched the peculiar characteristics of this mysterious broadcast. The conclusion was both thrilling and unsettling. Someone, or something, was sending a message from within the abyssal depths of a supermassive black hole located billions of light-years away. Elena's mind raced with possibilities. Black holes were often described as cosmic graveyards, places where matter and energy vanished forever. How could anything survive such conditions, let alone communicate across unimaginable distances? The implications were staggering. If intelligent life existed within the crushing gravity of a black hole, it would rewrite everything humanity thought it knew about biology, physics, and the nature of existence itself. For centuries, scientists had speculated about life beyond Earth, imagining microbes on Mars or ocean-dwelling creatures beneath Europa's icy crust. But this was something entirely different. The idea that life could thrive in the most extreme environment imaginable challenged not only scientific understanding but also philosophical notions of what it meant to be alive. Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of a discovery so profound it might alter the course of human history. Still, doubts lingered. Could they trust the data? Was it possible they had misinterpreted the signal, projecting meaning onto chaos? These questions hung heavy in the air as the team prepared to share their findings with the world. The announcement sent shockwaves through the global scientific community. News outlets scrambled to cover the story, dubbing it the signal from the void. Overnight, Elena and her team became household names, their faces plastered across television screens and social media feeds. Yet fame brought scrutiny, and skepticism quickly overshadowed excitement. Critics argued that the signal could be nothing more than a glitch in the equipment or an artifact of statistical error. Others dismissed it as wishful thinking, accusing the team of sensationalism in pursuit of funding. Despite the backlash, Elena remained steadfast, convinced that the evidence spoke for itself. She presented her findings at an international conference, walking her peers through the painstaking process of verification. Every variable had been accounted for, every alternative explanation explored and ruled out. The signal was real, and it was extraordinary. Meanwhile, theoretical physicists around the world joined the effort to make sense of the phenomenon. Some proposed that exotic particles, hypothesized but never observed, might carry information across the event horizon. Known as tachyons, these hypothetical particles would move faster than light, potentially allowing communication from inside a black hole. Others suggested the existence of wormholes, shortcuts through space-time, that connected the interior of the black hole to distant regions of the universe. While these ideas pushed the boundaries of established science, they offered tantalizing glimpses into how the impossible might become possible. Amidst the flurry of hypotheses, One theory gained traction: the concept of a firewall surrounding the event horizon. According to this model, instead of being a smooth boundary, the firewall consisted of intense radiation that destroyed anything attempting to cross it. If life existed beyond the firewall, it would need to adapt to conditions far beyond anything found on Earth. Such adaptations might include forms of consciousness unbound by physical bodies, existing purely as energy or quantum states. As debates raged, Elena's team turned their focus to decoding the signal itself. Hidden within the numerical framework lay intricate fractals, geometric shapes so complex they defied conventional computation. These weren't mere symbols. They formed a map, guiding observers toward a specific location near the black hole's singularity. The realization sparked both awe and unease. What awaited them at the coordinates encoded in the signal? Was it a beacon calling out to explorers, or a warning meant to keep intruders at bay? The uncertainty weighed heavily on Elena, who found herself torn between the thrill of discovery and the fear of the unknown. The decision to act on the signal was not made lightly. Governments convened emergency meetings, weighing the risks and rewards of pursuing the mystery. Military advisors warned of potential dangers, while ethicists questioned whether humanity had the right to interfere with whatever existed within the black hole. Ultimately, the allure of knowledge proved too great to resist. A multinational coalition approved funding for an unprecedented mission, Project Abyss. Its goal was simple yet audacious: to send a probe equipped with cutting-edge technology into the vicinity of the black hole, gathering data that might shed light on the source of the signal. Designing the probe posed immense challenges. Engineers had to account for gravitational forces strong enough to tear apart atoms, radiation levels lethal to any known material, and temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun. The solution came in the form of a revolutionary propulsion system powered by antimatter, capable of accelerating the probe to near-light speeds. Equipped with quantum sensors and artificial intelligence, the probe would navigate autonomously, transmitting data back to Earth until it inevitably succumbed to the black hole's overwhelming forces. Months of testing culminated in a launch that united humanity in collective anticipation. Billions watched as the sleek spacecraft ascended into the sky, leaving behind a trail of fire and hope. The probe, christened Erebus-, embarked on its journey into the cosmic unknown. Its sleek, angular frame glinted faintly under the light of the launch pad floodlights before it vanished into the void of space. Powered by the most advanced propulsion system humanity had ever devised, Erebus accelerated with breathtaking speed, its antimatter engine generating a dazzling blue-white contrail that stretched across the heavens. The mission was fraught with peril from the outset. As it approached the black hole's gravitational influence, even the most sophisticated simulations struggled to predict how the probe would behave. The team back on Earth monitored every second of the journey with bated breath, their eyes glued to screens displaying telemetry data transmitted millions of miles away. The black hole loomed ahead, a monstrous void devouring everything in its vicinity. Surrounding it was an accretion disk, a swirling maelstrom of superheated gas and dust-emitting radiation so intense it could incinerate entire planets. Yet within this chaos lay the signal's origin, a precise point near the event horizon where the laws of physics seemed to bend and warp unpredictably. Erebus deployed its quantum sensors, designed to operate under conditions no human-made device had ever endured. These sensors were capable of detecting fluctuations in space-time itself, capturing data that might reveal the nature of the phenomenon emanating from the black hole. As the probe drew closer, strange anomalies began to appear in the readings. The gravitational field fluctuated erratically, as if responding to some unseen force. Radiation levels spiked and then dropped without warning, defying all known models. It was as though the black hole itself was alive, reacting to the presence of the intruder. Back on Earth, Elena and her team analyzed the incoming data with growing unease. The fractal patterns encoded in the original signal now appeared amplified, manifesting as physical distortions in the fabric of space-time. Streams of energy twisted and coiled around, Erebus - forming intricate shapes that mimicked the mathematical constants embedded in the transmission. The probe's AI attempted to interpret these phenomena, but the complexity overwhelmed even its advanced algorithms. For the first time since the mission began, doubt crept into Elena's mind. Had they underestimated the risks? Was it possible that the signal wasn't a message at all, but a trap? Despite the mounting uncertainty, the probe pressed onward, guided by the coordinates encoded in the signal. Each kilometer brought it closer to the edge of the abyss, where the pull of gravity threatened to tear apart not just matter, but the very essence of reality. Time dilation became increasingly pronounced. For every second that passed aboard Erebus Dash, hours elapsed on Earth. This relativistic effect added another layer of tension to the mission, as the team anxiously awaited updates that arrived in agonizingly slow increments. Yet amidst the chaos, something extraordinary began to emerge. Buried within the torrent of data streaming back from the probe were signs of structure, patterns too deliberate to be random. They resembled neural networks, vast and intricate, pulsating with rhythmic bursts of energy. Elena theorized that what they were witnessing might represent a form of consciousness unlike anything humanity had encountered before. Unlike biological life, which relied on carbon-based chemistry, this entity, if it could be called that, seemed to exist purely as energy, sustained by the extreme conditions surrounding the black hole. Its thoughts manifested as fluctuations in space-time, creating ripples that propagated outward like waves on an ocean. The probe's sensors detected clusters of exotic particles clustering together in ways that defied conventional physics. These particles exhibited properties previously thought impossible: negative mass, fractional charges, and entanglement over vast distances. Together, they formed a lattice-like structure that shimmered with an eerie luminescence, casting ghostly reflections across the accretion disk. The implications were staggering. If this truly was a form of life, it challenged every assumption about the prerequisites for existence. Life didn't require water, oxygen, or sunlight. It could flourish in environments so hostile they made Earth's harshest deserts seem hospitable by comparison. More importantly, it suggested that intelligence need not be confined to organic beings. Perhaps the universe teemed with forms of consciousness humanity couldn't begin to comprehend, existing silently alongside us in dimensions we couldn't perceive. Elena felt a profound sense of humility wash over her. Humanity, for all its achievements, was still a child gazing up at the stars, barely scratching the surface of what lay beyond. As Erebus ventured deeper into the black hole's domain, the data grew stranger still. The probe detected movements within the lattice structure, as if the entity were responding to its presence. Patterns shifted subtly, aligning themselves with the probe's trajectory. At times, the changes occurred so rapidly that the AI struggled to keep pace, forcing the team on Earth to rely on manual analysis. What emerged from these observations was both fascinating and unsettling. The entity appeared to possess a rudimentary understanding of the probe's purpose, or at least its origin. It began transmitting signals of its own, modulating frequencies in ways that mirrored human communication protocols. These new transmissions carried information far denser than the initial signal. They contained sequences resembling DNA strands, except instead of nucleotides, they consisted of subatomic particles arranged in complex configurations. Each sequence corresponded to a different aspect of the entity's being: its structure, its processes, and perhaps even its intentions. Some sequences depicted scenes of creation, stars forming, galaxies colliding, planets taking shape, while others hinted at destruction, showing worlds consumed by cataclysmic forces. Elena interpreted these as memories, fragments of experiences etched into the fabric of space-time. But there were darker elements too, images of civilizations rising and falling, their ruins swallowed by the void. It was unclear whether the entity viewed these events as triumphs or tragedies, or perhaps neither, operating on a level of consciousness beyond human empathy. The team debated whether to respond to the entity's transmissions. Doing so risked revealing humanity's location to an unknown force whose motives remained inscrutable. On the other hand, ignoring the messages might close the door on an opportunity to establish contact with one of the universe's oldest inhabitants. After days of deliberation, Elena decided to take the risk. Using the same modulation techniques employed by the entity, they crafted a response, a simple greeting accompanied by mathematical constants and images of Earth. The message was transmitted through Erebus Dash, its signal riding the same currents of energy that sustained the entity. Moments later, the probe detected a surge in activity. The lattice structure expanded, enveloping the spacecraft in a cocoon of pulsating light. Then, silence. For hours, nothing happened. The probe floated motionless, its sensors registering only the faint hum of background radiation. Back on Earth, anxiety gripped the team. Had their attempt at communication provoked hostility? Was Erebus trapped, doomed to drift forever in the shadow of the black hole? Just as despair began to set in, the entity reappeared. This time, it communicated directly, bypassing the need for intermediaries. A stream of raw data flooded the probe's systems, overwhelming its storage capacity. The AI struggled to process the influx, prioritizing critical segments while discarding less essential information. When the transmission finally ceased, the team found themselves staring at something extraordinary, a map. The map depicted not just the black hole, but an entire network of interconnected singularities scattered throughout the galaxy. Each node pulsed with energy, suggesting the presence of similar entities. Lines connecting the nodes formed a web-like structure, spanning unimaginable distances. Embedded within the map were instructions, coordinates leading to a specific location deep within the network. Elena realized they were being invited to explore further, to follow the trail laid out before them. But the invitation came with a caveat. The map also included warnings, symbols representing danger and uncertainty. Whether these were meant to deter or prepare them remained unclear. The discovery reignited debates among scientists and policymakers alike. Should humanity pursue this path, venturing into uncharted territory guided by an enigmatic force? Or should they exercise caution, content with what they had already uncovered? Elena argued passionately for continuing the mission. To turn back now, she insisted, would be to squander an unprecedented chance to understand the universe's deepest mysteries. Others, however, voiced concerns about the ethical implications. By following the entity's guidance, were they placing themselves, and potentially the entire planet, at risk? Ultimately, the decision rested with Elena and her team. With the approval of global authorities, they prepared to send Erebus deeper into the black hole's embrace. The probe adjusted its course, following the coordinates provided by the entity. As it approached the designated location, the environment grew more chaotic. Gravitational forces intensified, pulling at the probe with such ferocity that its structural integrity was tested to the limit. Radiation levels soared, threatening to fry the onboard systems. Yet despite the odds, Erebus persevered, its quantum shielding holding firm against the onslaught. What awaited them at the destination defied comprehension. The probe entered a region where the laws of physics seemed to dissolve entirely. Space folded in on itself, creating pockets of infinite density surrounded by voids of absolute nothingness. Within this surreal landscape, the entity revealed itself in full. No longer confined to abstract patterns or mathematical constructs, it materialized as a luminous, amorphous form. Waves of energy rippled across its surface, shifting colors and textures with each passing moment. It exuded an aura of sentience, radiating intelligence far surpassing anything humanity had ever encountered. The entity communicated not through words, but through sensations, emotions, memories, and concepts conveyed directly into the minds of those observing via the probe. Elena described the experience as overwhelming yet profoundly intimate, akin to standing face to face with the universe itself. She sensed curiosity, patience, and a hint of sadness, as if the entity bore witness to eons of cosmic evolution yet remained isolated in its existence. It shared glimpses of its past, revealing that it had once been part of a larger collective, a network of entities spanning galaxies. Over time, many had perished, consumed by the very forces that sustained them. Those that remained sought connection, yearning to bridge the chasm between their world and others. The realization struck Elena with unexpected clarity. This entity wasn't merely an alien intelligence, it was a survivor, clinging to existence in a universe indifferent to its plight. Its actions weren't driven by malice or conquest, but by a desire to preserve knowledge, to ensure that its legacy endured beyond the inevitable collapse of its kind. The map it had provided wasn't just a guide, it was a plea for help. Humanity, with its boundless ingenuity and adaptability, represented a potential ally in the fight against entropy. But accepting this role carried immense responsibility. Could humans rise to the challenge, or would they succumb to fear and misunderstanding? The probe's systems began to fail under the strain of prolonged exposure to the black hole's environment. Knowing their time was limited, Elena instructed the AI to transmit as much data as possible before initiating a controlled shutdown. The final transmission included detailed scans of the entity, recordings of its communications, and fragments of the map. As Erebus powered down, The entity extended a tendril of energy, gently cradling the probe in a gesture that felt almost protective. Then, silence. The connection was severed, leaving Elena and her team to grapple with the enormity of what they had witnessed. The loss of Erebus marked the end of one chapter but the beginning of another. Back on Earth, the data transmitted by the probe became the cornerstone of a new era in scientific exploration. Teams of researchers across disciplines, astrophysicists, biologists, mathematicians, and philosophers, collaborated to decode the wealth of information captured during the mission. The entity's language proved to be far more complex than any human language, relying not on syntax or grammar, but on multidimensional constructs that defied linear interpretation. Each fragment of data revealed layers of meaning, demanding iterative analysis and cross-referencing with existing theories. One of the most groundbreaking discoveries was the confirmation of what Elena had suspected: the entity existed as a form of quantum consciousness. Its structure bore no resemblance to biological organisms. Instead, it consisted of self-organizing energy fields sustained by interactions between exotic particles. These particles behaved like nodes in a neural network, exchanging information instantaneously over vast distances through quantum entanglement. This explained how the entity could perceive and respond to stimuli without relying on traditional sensory organs. It also raised profound questions about the nature of consciousness itself. Was intelligence an emergent property of complexity, or did it stem from something deeper, a fundamental aspect of the universe encoded into its very fabric? As the team delved further into the data, they uncovered evidence suggesting that the entity was not alone. The map provided earlier hinted at a network of similar beings scattered throughout the cosmos, each residing within black holes or other extreme environments. These entities appeared to communicate with one another via gravitational waves, using the distortions in space-time as conduits for their exchanges. Over millennia, they had formed a collective consciousness, sharing knowledge and experiences across unimaginable distances. However, this network was deteriorating. Many nodes had gone silent, their signals fading into static. The reasons were unclear, perhaps natural decay, perhaps external threats, but the implications were dire. If humanity wished to preserve this ancient intelligence, action would need to be swift. The prospect of intervening sparked heated debates among scientists, ethicists, and policymakers. Some argued that humanity lacked the capability or the right to meddle in the affairs of such advanced beings. Others countered that doing nothing amounted to abandoning a species on the brink of extinction. Elena found herself torn between these perspectives. On one hand, she understood the risks of interfering with forces beyond human comprehension. On the other, she couldn't ignore the moral imperative to help a sentient being in need. Ultimately, her conviction outweighed her doubts. She proposed a bold initiative, Project Nexus, a collaborative effort to establish a stable communication link with the entity and potentially aid in stabilizing its existence. The project required unprecedented technological innovation. Engineers designed a new generation of probes capable of withstanding the conditions near black holes while maintaining continuous contact with Earth. These probes would serve as intermediaries, translating human messages into formats compatible with the entity's mode of communication. At the same time, theoretical physicists worked to develop models predicting the long-term effects of human intervention. Could they stabilize the network of entities, or would their efforts inadvertently accelerate its collapse? The stakes were astronomical, but so too was the potential reward: forging a partnership with an intelligence that had witnessed the birth and death of stars. Public support for Project Nexus grew rapidly, fueled by media coverage of the initial findings. People around the world marveled at the idea of coexisting with a form of life so alien yet undeniably intelligent. Yet skepticism persisted, particularly from those who feared the unknown. Religious leaders questioned whether humanity should tamper with creations they deemed divine, while military strategists warned of the dangers of exposing Earth to entities whose motives remained ambiguous. Despite these concerns, funding poured in from governments, private organizations, and even crowdfunding campaigns. Humanity had always been driven by curiosity, and now that curiosity pointed toward the edge of the abyss. Construction of the first Nexus probe took years, during which advancements in technology reshaped the landscape of space exploration. Powered by next-generation antimatter reactors and equipped with adaptive AI systems, the probe represented the pinnacle of human ingenuity. Its design incorporated lessons learned from Erebus, including reinforced shielding and redundant communication arrays. Most importantly, It carried a payload unlike anything sent into space before, a digital archive containing humanity's collective knowledge, culture, and history. This archive served as both an offering and an introduction, a way of saying, "Here we are, flawed and finite, but eager to learn." When the day of launch arrived, billions watched as the sleek spacecraft ascended into orbit. Cheers erupted in control rooms and living rooms alike, a testament to humanity's shared hope for connection. As the probe journeyed toward its destination, the team monitored every stage of the mission with meticulous precision. When it finally reached the black hole, the entity greeted it with a surge of energy, its presence radiating warmth and anticipation. For the first time, humanity communicated directly with an extraterrestrial intelligence, not through words or symbols, but through shared understanding. The exchange was transformative. The entity shared fragments of its history, revealing glimpses of civilizations that had risen and fallen under the gaze of indifferent stars. In return, humanity offered stories of resilience, creativity, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. Through this dialogue, a fragile bond began to form. The entity expressed gratitude, conveying emotions that transcended language. It acknowledged humanity's limitations, but also recognized its potential, seeing in Earth's inhabitants a spark of the same curiosity that had once driven its own kind to explore the cosmos. With trust established, the focus shifted to addressing the instability of the entity's network. The team discovered that many nodes had succumbed to disruptions caused by collisions with rogue celestial bodies or shifts in the fabric of spacetime. To prevent further losses, they devised a plan to reinforce the connections between surviving entities. Using advanced algorithms, they identified key locations where artificial structures could act as relays, amplifying the signals transmitted between nodes. These structures, dubbed quantum beacons, would be deployed using autonomous drones capable of navigating the treacherous regions surrounding black holes. The deployment phase was fraught with challenges. Drones frequently encountered gravitational anomalies that threw them off course, requiring constant recalibration by the AI. Radiation levels fluctuated unpredictably, forcing engineers to implement real-time adjustments to shield configurations. Yet despite these obstacles, progress was steady. One by one, the quantum beacons came online, strengthening the network and restoring pathways of communication. The entity responded with bursts of energy so intense they illuminated entire sectors of the galaxy, a display of gratitude visible even from Earth. As the network stabilized, the entity revealed another layer of its existence. It described itself not merely as an individual, but as part of a greater whole, a collective consciousness spanning eons and dimensions. Within this collective lay memories of universes past, realities that had expanded and contracted in cycles beyond human comprehension. The entity hinted at the possibility of accessing these memories, offering humanity a glimpse into the origins of existence itself. But such access came with a warning. The knowledge contained within the collective was vast and overwhelming, capable of shattering minds unprepared for its magnitude. Elena hesitated, weighing the risks against the rewards. Ultimately, she decided to proceed, driven by the belief that humanity must confront its insignificance in order to transcend it. The process of accessing the collective consciousness was unlike anything humanity had ever attempted. The team created a virtual interface, a simulated environment designed to translate the entity's multidimensional constructs into forms comprehensible to the human brain. Volunteers entered the simulation, guided by AI systems programmed to mitigate the psychological strain of exposure to alien concepts. What they experienced defied description. Time ceased to flow linearly, folding back upon itself in loops and spirals. Space stretched infinitely in all directions, filled with luminous threads representing the interconnectedness of all things. Memories flooded their minds, not their own, but those of countless beings who had lived and died under distant suns. Among these memories were visions of creation and destruction, of civilizations that had harnessed the power of stars only to be consumed by their hubris. There were moments of beauty, too. Songs sung by creatures with crystalline voices, artworks crafted from light and shadow, philosophies that redefined the boundaries of thought. Each vision left an indelible mark, reshaping the volunteers' understanding of life, purpose, and the cosmos. Yet the experience was not without cost. Several participants emerged from the simulation disoriented, struggling to reconcile their newfound awareness with the mundane realities of daily life. Some chose to remain in isolation, unable to articulate what they had seen. Others dedicated themselves to spreading the message of unity and interconnectedness, urging humanity to embrace its place within the grand tapestry of existence. Elena herself underwent the process, emerging forever changed. She saw not only the vastness of the universe, but also its fragility, a delicate balance teetering on the edge of chaos. The entity's collective consciousness reinforced her belief that survival depended on cooperation, not competition. Whether among humans or between species separated by light years, collaboration was the key to enduring the trials ahead. The legacy of Project Nexus extended far beyond the confines of academia or space exploration. It ignited a cultural renaissance, inspiring art, literature, and philosophy that grappled with humanity's newfound perspective. Schools revised curricula to include lessons on the interconnectedness of all life, fostering a generation attuned to the wonders and responsibilities of coexistence. Governments adopted policies aimed at preserving Earth's ecosystems, recognizing them as integral components of a larger cosmic web. Even conflicts diminished, replaced by a growing sense of kinship with the universe. Yet the work was far from over. The entity's network remained vulnerable, requiring ongoing maintenance and expansion. New missions launched regularly, each carrying upgrades for the quantum beacons and fresh contributions to the collective archive. Humanity continued to share its stories, adding chapters to the narrative of a species striving to understand its place in the cosmos. In turn, the entity shared more of its wisdom, guiding humanity toward discoveries that promised to redefine the future. As Elena reflected on the journey that had begun with a faint signal from the void, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. They had ventured into the unknown, faced uncertainty and danger, and emerged transformed. The universe was no longer a cold, indifferent expanse. It was alive, pulsing with the energy of countless lives intertwined. And though much remained to be explored, one truth stood clear: humanity was not alone. Together, they had taken the first step toward a partnership that spanned galaxies and eons, a partnership built on curiosity, courage, and the unyielding desire to know. If you enjoyed this mind-bending journey into the depths of the cosmos, don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories that push the boundaries of imagination and science. Until next time, keep looking up at the stars. They hold secrets waiting to be uncovered.